So a lot of people are taking a lot of steroids in hopes to get as big as the bodybuilders that we see on stage. Now, I know from my own personal experimentation and from my theories and hypothesis that I continue to prove that's true, that my anabolic matrix is a much better way to understand growing muscle, especially permanent new muscle. So there are some compounds that people are missing. There's EPO, which we're going to do videos on each one of those, but want to try and put them all together in this one video. There's EPO, there's anabolics like steroids or SARMs, and there's the growth hormone, there's local growth factors and the inflammation in the muscle. So I want to know how all these things come together to make someone as big of a bodybuilder as possible. Keep in mind, guys, this is not beginner stuff. This is what's done on the advanced levels. We are not recommending you do any of this. This is not medical advice. This is just for entertainment, educational purposes only.
Scientifically speaking, there's multiple different ways that one can grow the cell itself. Okay, so when you're trying to create hyperplasia, you're looking at multiple different things. Mitosis, which is the actual splitting of the cells. The hyperplasia, which is the cell volume itself. Okay, so those two things are increased by growth hormone. What makes the increase more significant is the fact that if you add EPO to the mix, now you have more blood. So you have a stronger petri dish in which everything can actually grow in your body. It's increased its cell count. So if you have more cells split and divide, more hyperplasia in those cells, that's the fastest way you can grow. It's extremely dangerous to combine these things because with the EPO, once it gets going, you kind of can't pull back. I mean, it's like I guess you could say we're talking about DNP, for example. You wouldn't take it every day. I mean, you're talking about the dosages that you use, and some people say that they're astronomically high, but it's the way that you use it, the frequency, and the way that it absorbs in the body. EPO is a lot like that. You know, if you take it every day, then by the second week, you can't stop it for 6 more days, 7 more days. It still continues. You know, so you have to continue to stay hydrated and it's so powerful. It's actually so powerful that you can't finish the workout. It's amazing. Again, you go into the gym thinking that you're going to do, you know, your workout, this many sets for this many sets for this, and you start the first exercise. You pump up. You feel like you did your whole workout just from the warm up. 20 reps. You feel like you trained the whole thing. By the third set, there's so much blood you can't even move.
I'm kind of experiencing that myself right now with the mint and the growth hormone combined together with the SARMs. My body's so anabolic, it's actually hard to work out.
Yeah, we noticed that too.
Yeah.
This is a big time where you got to be very careful not to train imbalanced because then the imbalance is going to continue and it'll get out of hand.
So looking at each component of this, you got insulin. That forces nutrients into the cell, pulls them into the cell. So that brings the nutrients in. You got the anabolics, the steroids or the SARMs.
Increase the size of the cell.
Size of the cell and protein synthesis, and also if you miss meals and things, prevent you from going catabolic.
Of course, yeah.
And then you've got the growth hormone. What's the growth hormone and the IGF doing?
The growth hormone and the IGF, and this is where you can see bodybuilding change from the 90s when the implementation of this was to now. That does something different. So you can see hyperplasia. You can see cells swell with creatine. With salt, I mean that's not that big of a deal. So it's usually like me, I'm atrophied, and my cells are depleted. You're not. So there's that range right there. But when we talk about cells splitting and dividing, where now one cell becomes 2, like when you're a baby and you grow taller, that's what the growth hormone does. So although our bones are sealed, the bones won't grow, but it will do the same thing that it did for a child to make a child grow taller, you know, with the muscle tissue and everything else that it'll do for us. The difference with us is we stimulate the area that we want it directed to by training. So if you train this area, it's gonna be focused on that area.
So the theory of the anabolic matrix is you start with something anabolic like a steroid or a hormone or a SARM, and then you move over to growth hormone, and then you move over to insulin. To combine the insulin with the growth hormone for that synergy to increase IGF, and because growth hormone can limit the amount of nutrients that you can pull into the cell. And then we talk about local growth factors. Creating inflammation can be done by training, can be done by injecting site injections. That's right. A lot of our athletes like to put the steroids into the muscle they want to grow. it cause local inflammation. Not that the hormone is actually creating growth in the areas of the inflammation, or using arachidonic acid to create the inflammation. Then we got this last tier that we're finally adding on to the anabolic matrix, and the most dangerous thing, don't any of you do it, that's the EPO.
EPO, right? Because if you let me think about it, we're talking about growth hormone and IGF-1, which is taking cells, splitting them and dividing them. But now you got EPO, which is also increasing a certain part of the whole body's blood cell count, the red blood cell count specifically. Okay, so now you have more red blood cells also being splitting and dividing. It's all specific towards what we do. The cyclists have been using it for years, and a lot of endurance athletes use it because there's more blood, there's more oxygen, more ATP. So there's a lot more benefits than just the cells splitting and dividing. It decreases the volume of the blood. The thing is that it just shouldn't be used incorrectly. And this is a very, very, very serious statement, because people don't get, if your ride to the ambulance is 20 minutes before it gets there, you only have 15, that's it. You know what I mean? Nobody has IV bags laying around to try to hydrate you.
All right, we got to cut it short because the Uber driver has arrived. Amin's got to head back to Colorado, be swell and sold, my friends of freedom, pioneers of human evolution.